Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm starting a new project reviewing all of the albums of Paul McCartney, and this will include all of the Beatles albums as well. As I explained in a previous video, I'm going to be looking at all different aspects of Paul McCartney's career, the Beatles, the Wings and his solo albums. And in case you're new to my reviews, let me just explain my system. I grade each track out of 10. And I have my own scheme for marking these. A fairly good track gets a 5, a good track gets a 6, and so on up here until 10 is out of this world. Now, I'm not one of those reviewers who gives everything 10 out of 10. I don't really see the point of that, because what I'm trying to do is find the tracks which I like more than others. So there's plenty of gaps, plenty of space at the top of my marking scheme for 7s and 8s, which are really great tracks, and only the occasional one will get a 9 or a 10. To give an example, I've reviewed nearly 350 Elton John songs. I've only awarded 10 out of 10 3 times. So I really save that for something special, and I expect there will be plenty of special and brilliant tracks to find amongst Paul McCartney's material. So I'm giving marks for the tracks that I like, how much I like a particular track. And let me say, I'm not totally familiar with all of Paul McCartney's work. Obviously, I know most of the Beatles songs by now. I know a lot of Paul McCartney's singles that are collected on this very best of CD. But what I don't know is what's beneath the surface. I don't know much about the deeper cuts, and I'm really interested in getting into those. Now, I'm starting with this album here, which is Egypt Station, his 17th studio album, which came out in 2018. Now, this is the deluxe edition cover. You may have the normal CD edition, which is a similar sort of picture, more sort of yellow and blue. I'm going to be going through all of the tracks here and marking them all out of 10. And if you're new to my videos, just to let you know that what I do is I total up all the tracks. I work out an average, a mean mark per track, and that gives me a grading for the album. And this enables me to compare one album with another. Now, what is this all about? Well, what is this Egypt Station? Well, perhaps it's an idea of a railway station. Some people have said it's a radio station. Certainly the opening station track gives the sound effects possibly of a railway station, somewhere exotic. And then there's a little bit of choral background coming in. I'm not going to grade that opening track. It's a bit of atmosphere, but it's a pleasant start to the album. Track number 1, though, is called I Don't Know. Now, Paul McCartney's given a very strong opening to this album. That's all I'm going to say. It starts a little bit like an Elton John piano song, actually, then some soft acoustic guitar going in. What is this song about? Well, he was feeling low. Things were not going very well with him in life, and you can tell that from the opening lyric. And he's kind of introspectively considering why that is. He's saying, what am I doing wrong? Where am I going wrong? He can't take it anymore. So it's an introspective ballad. And then some sort of more reassuring words come in. And it's like a different voice saying, I will take the strain. It's all right. Things are going to be okay. So he finds that reassurance, whether that's an internal voice or whether that's somebody else coming to him and saying, I will take the strain. The whole thing is an immensely reassuring and ultimately uplifting track. And I like this a lot, actually. I like the lyric and I like the musical setting he's given it. He's got this feeling at the end of trying to be strong, being strong, and that really comes through well. The melody is pleasant. Even though there's an underlying sadness in it, it is ultimately optimistic, and there's lots of emotion in his voice. So for me, this is a very strong opening to the album. I enjoy this track a lot. I'm going to rate it as a very good track and give it 7 marks out of 10. Now, the second track is Come On To Me. Now, if you've seen any of Paul McCartney's live performances, particularly the one at Grand Central Station, you'll see him performing this song, and it's a really enjoyable song. There's a rock guitar opening, and the whole thing here is a little bit suggestive, isn't it? It's about signals between possible partners. Who is taking the initiative in a relationship? And we've got this quite thrilling refrain, if you come on to me, will I come on to you? And it's an easy one to remember. The crowd getting involved in singing this as well during live performances. And kind of Paul McCartney's making the point this can happen to anyone, anywhere. It's a catchy, uplifting, sing-along track. Good brass backing on this. And it's exploring this whole idea of attraction. There's a very good and fun video going on this. There's a kind of a security guard in it, a cleaner, somebody in a burger van, and it's just exploring the signals going on between them. And it works really well to illustrate the song. So again, it's a very strong opening, isn't it, to this album? I'm going to rate that very good and give that 7 out of 10 as well. Now, track number 3 is Happy With You. And Paul McCartney has managed here a really strong 3-song start to this album. What he's doing in this song is exploring the idea of contentment in life. He's looking back saying, you know, I've done a few wild things. He mentions getting stoned. He mentions getting drunk. It used to make him feel bad, and it used to make him angry and not feel good about himself. But he's reached that stage in life where he's presumably happy in a relationship. He's realised that that sort of contentment has set in. And other things make him feel good, like see the mighty ocean break like a sailor's warning. There's some really delicious images he's got here in the lyric. Although it's quite a simple idea, I think it's very effective. And this turns out to be a really lovely, pretty song. Spare instrumentation, that's all it needs. Although the lyrics are fairly simple, the idea, is quite deep in a way, and this is a song that a lot of people can relate to. So again, I enjoy this one very much. I'm going to give it another very good 7 out of 10 rating. Track 4 is called Who Cares? Now, in this track, Paul tackles the issue of bullying. Now, maybe in our lives we've all been the victims of some sort of either physical or psychological bullying. It happens a lot in schools, doesn't it? Hopefully it's not happening so much now, but you never really know, do you? Happens in the workplace as well. Happens in relationships. So he's kind of saying, well, who's going to look after you? He's going to say, I do. And this is almost like an anthem, a positive anthem about the fact that you can look out for somebody, you can care for them, and you can sort of help them if they've been victims of bullying. It says, who cares what the idiots say? I do. That's the refrain in this. So it's about being rescued from demons in an earlier life, those memories which are still painful. And it's got some constructive advice to younger people as well, that there is hope out there. So it's got a rocking beat, this one. There's an interesting video with Emma Stone, although I felt perhaps a little bit light-hearted for the subject matter. I don't know what you think. The melody isn't quite as memorable as the first 3 tracks, but it's still a decent track and it's a good listen. So I'm going to say this is a fairly good track and award this one 5 marks out of 10. Now, track 5 is, got to be careful how I say this, F-U-H-U. And Paul has described this as a sort of a raunchy love song. Well, this is a fun track, co-written by Ryan Tedder, vocal only at the start. Then we have kind of an uplifting anthem chorus. Obviously, the title is open to your own interpretation. If you've seen the live performance of this, you could be mistaken for hearing another word in there. But it's about young friends having their first kiss. I just want to know how you feel, what next stage is this relationship going to take. Now, there's a good hook in this. It's a nice, powerful, uplifting, rocking song. And this was the 3rd single from the album, actually. I would say it's fairly good. We're still in good territory here. I'm going to give it 5 marks out of 10. Track number 6. Track number 6 is Confidant. And this is kind of a love song from Paul to his guitar. And he used his guitar as like a confidant when he was a child. So perhaps, he's a little bit introverted. Often introversion can lead to these really creative songs and creative people. So he'd go off into a corner and write a little song as if you're confiding to the guitar your inner feelings. That's a pleasant idea, isn't it? People who write poetry do that as well, or write stories. They're kind of confiding their inner self to this creative process. So it's a love song to the guitar. It opens with a very pleasant guitar and vocal. It's a calm, reflective ballad, a pleasant tune, There's a second vocal coming in on the refrain. Again, a nice piece of work, this one. I'm going to describe it as a fairly good track and give it 5 marks out of 10. Now, remember, you might think these marks are a bit low, but they're not actually, because I'm saying these are good or fairly good tracks. And we've got to bear in mind what's coming as well. We've got all the Beatles material to come. So I've got to leave some room at the top of my grading system for what's to come. Track number 7 is People Want Peace. Now, this was inspired by a visit by Paul to Palestine and Israel and meeting some of the people there and experiencing the situation there. This track starts like a speech with kind of sort of simple message, maybe naive, but, truly felt and honest. And, who doesn't need this sort of message? It shows the futility maybe of musicians playing for this sort of thing, when we all need to play for it. But it's a good dream to have, isn't it? And there's a good driving drum on this. It's a decent catchy refrain, maybe not quite catchy enough for it to be like a hit and an anthem. We can compare this, of course, with Give Peace a Chance from John Lennon. But this is actually a better recording in terms of production, but maybe not quite so memorable a refrain. Nevertheless, it's a powerful song. It addresses a very important subject. And again, I'm going to say it's a fairly good song and award this one 5 marks out of 10. Track number 8 is Hand in Hand. This is about a couple on the verge of commitment, possibly second time around in their relationship. Paul uses a very gentle voice on this one, softly spoken, and it suits the melody really well. It's a beautiful, tight song, this, just 2.5 minutes. There's a couple of cellos on there and a very pleasant Indian flute. They're simple but heartfelt lyrics, and this is very much like a Beatles song, Paul McCartney Beatles song. So I enjoy this one very much. I'm going to award it a good mark of 6 out of 10. Track number 9 is one of my favourites on the album, actually. This is Dominos, and Paul plays all the instruments on this one. It's about one deed having an effect on others, so presumably a good deed leading to another good deed, and that sort of goodness spreading. Again, it's another optimistic song. He says in it, it's been a blast, and you can clearly hear that he's enjoying this music. It's an attractive verse. It's a good, pacey, upbeat song. The refrain is engaging. A little bit like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds in a way, just the way the notes modulate on there. Again, this is a classy track, this one, and it takes repeated listening as well. You can listen to this again and again and still get enjoyment out of it. It just feels good. The harmonies are good. The chord changes are good. So enjoy this very much. I'm going to say a very good track, 7 out of 10. Number 10 is Back in Brazil. Now, Paul was doing a concert in Brazil, and while he was there, he sort of wanted something with that kind of context, that sort of South American feel to it. So he came with a South American rhythm, perhaps not quite in the mode of the Girl from Ipanema, Stan Getz, that sort of thing, but still it's got a nice feel to this one. It's about a young man and woman who are meeting. She's going to a concert. He can't get the time off work, and she ends up meeting Paul on stage at his concert. And there's a nice video that goes along with this. It's a catchy song. It's got some nice little quirks on it, like a bird recording. It's got a bamboo flute as well. And it's got this this word at the end, this Japanese word, ichiban, which means great. Paul used a lot of local people to help him with that song there, because apparently there's quite a large population of Japanese people in Brazil. That's why that was chosen. Again, a nice track to listen to, this one. So I'm going to award it fairly good. I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. Track number 11 is Do It Now. Now, apparently, Paul's father used to say that he shouldn't prevaricate over things, he should do it now. So that's the inspiration for this song. Again, Paul using quite a light voice for this one. It's another Beatles-like ballad, a very clear vocal. It's a pleasant tune. There's some orchestral backing. It's about being decisive and has a simple, clear message, which is very pleasant to listen to, actually. So, there's some very decent tracks on this album, I've got to say. And for my first solo Paul McCartney album, pretty impressed with this, actually. I'm looking forward to digging deep into his other material. So I'm going to give Do It Now another fairly good 5 out of 10. Track number 12 is Caesar Rock. Bit of fun, this one. It was kind of one they just worked out in the studio as they were going along. It's a playful song. There's a bit of auto-tune in it. Paul wanted to know how that was going, how he could use that. The song plays backwards at one stage. There's some call and response in it. Caesar Rock becomes Caesar Rock. Like a little bit of a mishearing there. It's a decent rocker, this. Paul's using his gritty rock voice. I like to hear that as well. And it's a good contrast to his pleasant ballad voice as well. So again, you know, nothing's dropping here at the moment. It's another fairly good track, and it's 5 out of 10. Now, track number 13, Despite Repeated Warnings, is a major production piece. This is a headline that Paul saw in the newspaper. This is kind of a metaphor for the danger to the planet. So it's all about the captain who's steering the ship into trouble. Is this Donald Trump, perhaps? We don't know. It's an epic production, according to Paul, about climate change and politicians who won't sort of face up to that. So the iceberg is the climate change in that. And it's one of these songs, and Paul, I know, does a lot of these where they're sort of episodic. It's like a mini musical almost. This one's, I think, got 3 parts to it. Completely different tunes for those, and we've seen that a lot before with Paul, like Band on the Run. Live and Let Die has got 2 tunes in it, hasn't it? And this is fine, and often these fit together quite well. Of course, not always are all parts as good as the other ones. But this is a majestic and powerful song. The main thing's okay. Maybe some of the other bits don't quite match up. The second bit is about how can we stop him, grab the keys and lock him up. Then the third bit is We Can Do It Now, which is slightly Bond-like in its construction. And then for the fourth part, it goes back to the original thing, which is quite an engaging melody. So it's okay, this one. I'd say fairly good 5 out of 10 again on that. And it makes a good point, and it makes it pretty well. Now, there's a little bit of an interlude after that called Station 2, which goes back to this imaginary station. There's more of a soundscape there, and there's a busker coming in at the end. So that's, I won't grade that track, but it's nice to have it there. The track 14, which is the final one on the original album CD, is a medley of 3. And I look at these together because you've got Hunt You Down, which apparently was inspired by Prince. Paul's a big fan of the music of Prince. I Can't Find My Love, She Keeps Running Away. There's a slight sort of sense of threatening menace in this. It's a rocker with a good beat, lots of brass backing, almost sounds like an Otis Redding recording. Then it moves into 3/4 time from 4/4 for Naked, which he recorded on his own. You Feel Naked Sometimes. Slightly awkward melody on the refrain there, and perhaps this isn't quite as good as how the song started. And then the third part is called C-Link, and Paul admits he was totally indulging himself in the guitar in this kind of orchestral drone. Paul's playing over the top. Some of it's in unison with the orchestra, some of it isn't. So originally this was a much longer track, which they've reduced down to 6 minutes. It doesn't quite hit the mark in having all parts consistently good. So I'm only going to say this is an average track and give this 4 marks out of 10. Now, there's lots of bonus material on this deluxe edition, so I'm going to deal with that in a second video because there's plenty of new tracks and some live versions on the second disc of that. So I'm going to stop my marks there for this album. Now, what I've done is I've given it a total of 78 marks from 14 tracks. Pretty good score for me, and that comes out as 5.57 marks per track, which puts this album between the fairly good and good, much nearer the good. And as I've said before, this for a first solo album I've heard from Paul all the way through. I'm very impressed actually, and eager to look at more. So I'll just show you my spreadsheet so far. Just this one album on there, and those are the tracks in order. So I've put I Don't Know, Come On To Me, Happy With You and Dominos at the top as the 4 strongest, and Hunt You Down, that little compilation, as perhaps not the strongest, with 4 out of 10 so far. Now, obviously, that's early days for that list, but that's going to expand to include every single Paul McCartney track, hopefully, and also all of his albums. So thanks for watching. Please stick with me if you're interested in the music of Paul McCartney. I'm not an expert, but I'm learning as I go along this. I've done a lot on Elton John, I've done a lot on ABBA. I'm really looking for what makes a song good, what makes it so successful. So subscribe if you want to. The next one I'm going to look at is going to be the Wings album London Town, which I bought recently on vinyl. So I'm looking forward to having a close look at that. See you soon.